Hello everybody, my name is Kevin McElhennan and I'm a priest in the parish of Kappa or Killyclogher in County Tyrone. And I'm delighted to this weekend be able to share with you a brief reflection on what is the feast of the Ascension of the Lord into heaven. And I'd like to give you this reflection based on a little painting that I like very much. And this is the painting here. It's called A Man with a Hoe, painted by Millet, a Frenchman. And he painted it in the middle of the 1800s during the Industrial Revolution, a time when there were great strides being made in science and technology with the invention of machines. And many people were leaving the countryside during that time where they worked on the land and in their farms, moving into cities in search of a new life and prosperity promised by work in factories that were springing up all over the place. And what do we see in this painting? We see a man who's standing alone in the middle of what looks like a barren and rocky landscape. And he's resting on his hoe from what is undoubtedly back-breaking work. He's bent over, looking down into the ground. And if you look closely, he looks sad. There's a sad expression in his face. And if you look as well at his feet and his hands, they look to be painfully twisted. In fact, his whole body looks to be distorted and misshapen. And when I look at this man in the painting, he somehow symbolises all those whose lives are bent out of shape or disfigured by the cares or worries or tragedies of life. Those who are tired, whose backs are bent with the worries of each day. People who have little energy or enthusiasm to look up beyond the suffocating horizons of life. And he stands, I think, as a symbol of people who look not upwards in hope, but downwards in despair. And he makes me think of how we can all become distorted or bent out of shape, stooped over, looking downwards in hopelessness, looking into a very small little world, trapped in a suffocating, closed little space in life. I think one of the greatest tragedies that can befall any of us in life is the inability to see far, to lose that far-sightedness, to lose that ability to see beyond where we might be stuck, to lose that sense of the more or the transcendent, if you want to call it that. And there is much that can rob us of this sense. If we're people who are just preoccupied with material things or pleasure or power or greed, we can find ourselves living a very shallow kind of a life, with lives that are trapped or hemmed in under the low, suffocating horizons of this worldly concerns with all its worries and pains and cares, and with our eyes never looking upwards, but always looking downwards to the dust of the earth and to things that are little. How many of us can go through life with eyes that are closed? Closed to heavenly things, or closed to God, closed to the deeper dimensions of life, to the spiritual realities that are all around us, with eyes that don't look up in hope, but always downwards to things that are small and make little of us. I think that as Christians, one of the things we all have to learn, you might say the discipline of learning to be a disciple of Jesus, is to train our eyes to see far, to live out of a centre within us where we sometimes and often hear an eternal voice. And if we don't train our souls to look up, we end up maybe not listening to the music anymore, or we lose the ability to dream or even to realise the deepest reality of our lives and even of the destiny to which we're all called. And we find our spirit just imprisoned, and we deny ourselves what by nature we were created to do, to live and to breathe and to flourish in a wider world, to live in the neighbourhood of mystery, you might say, and to soar with the angels and to contemplate the things of God, the things that expand us and make our lives broad and rich. Can I end with a a little poem that was written about this painting by Edwin Markham, and I found it very thought-provoking. I'd just like to read a few lines of it for you. He says in his poem, "Bowed by the weight of centuries he leans upon his hoe and gazes onto the ground, the emptiness of ages in his face and on his back the burden of the world. Who made him dead to rapture and despair, a thing that grieves not and that never hopes? Is this the thing the Lord God made and gave to have dominion over sea and land, to trace the stars and search the heavens for power, to feel the passion of eternity? There is no shape more terrible than this monstrous thing, distorted and soul-quenched." And then Markham ends his poem with this thought-provoking line in question. "How will you ever straighten up this shape? Touch it again with immortality? Give back the upward looking and the light? Rebuild in it the music and the dream?" As we contemplate today those disciples gazing to where Jesus is gone, may we be people who are always filled with hope, filled with a sense of the more, filled with hope and joy, always called to contemplate to where the Lord has destined us to live with him. May we be people always full of that joy, that Easter joy, and I wish it to you today, to your families and to your friends and loved ones. Peace and joy and happiness, now and always. Take care.